Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and welcome from Ireland on my golf trip, which is going through the weekend. But I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about the UFC card from the Apex, excuse me, from the Sphere this weekend. And there's good news and bad news. The good news is that it's a really, really good card with two amazing five-round fights and a couple of other bangers in here. But the bad news is that there are only 10 fights on the card, which means from a DFS perspective, it is kind of a poor slate. I mean, it's an easy slate to pick good plays, but it's extremely difficult slate to attempt to get unique. The combination of there being complete standout plays and only 10 fights to choose from just makes the presence of dupes just an inevitability. Now, I shouldn't say an inevitability because there are, with all things gambling and in life, there's just a range of outcomes here. And while the majority of the time you're going to get the optimal duped, many times on a card like this, I mean, there's some times where it does not. So if you are going to play for the big GPPs, you do have kind of a decision to make, whether and to what degree you are going to eschew, the best plays and the best lineups in the name of trying to get unique. Is it easy to get unique? No, no, but you can do it. But again, like anything else in DFS, you're going to be sacrificing, you know, average projection scores. You're going to be sacrificing the more likely outcomes. But hey, I've definitely committed to this idea of trying to get unique as much as possible. So if I do find the time to do a lineup construction video, we are going to see if we can actually do that. So we are going to, when we go through this card, we're going to talk about both, I guess, a little bit of who the best plays are, and we'll talk about lineup construction kind of to some degree. And there are obviously a couple of examples of of fights that are pretty good fundamental examples of how you're supposed to play DFS and ways you're supposed to think about it. And I mean, should we cut right to the chase and get to the main event and talk about this? I mean, I guess we should, right? So first thing I do want to talk about is Sean O'Malley versus Marab, and the money line here is O'Malley minus 130, and the line is reflected quite efficiently in the DraftKings pricing if all we cared about was win odds. Now the problem here is that we don't just care about win odds; we care about upside, and we talk about how these guys are going to score when they win. And the reality is, as with most Marab fights, his ceiling is just so high in all of his wins because of his style that he's always the best play. He just is. Um, it, Again, is he going to win? I mean, yeah, he is about 48% of the time or whatever, 45% of the time. But the problem is when he wins, he just is going to score in a 5 round fight through the roof. And at 7,700, he's going to be in the optimal. He just is. Now, as I mentioned, in gambling, MMA, DFS, and life, there's no such thing as a sure thing. Okay, so there's always a range of outcomes. So yes, there are variations, I guess, where Marab wins does not make the optimal. I just don't know of any. Um, I mean, yeah, you want to come up with some? Sure, he can get a DQ. He could get a third. You know what he could do? He can get a third round sub somehow, having not been able to take him down for two rounds and get a third round sub, get 85. But that's not realistic. I mean, if he gets his thing going, he's going to get 10 takedowns, he's going to get control time, and he's going to score 140 plus. I mean, it's just the way it is in a 5 round fight with him. So, in a vacuum, or if this were not an ownership game or whatever, you'd have to play 100% of Divashvili. You just have to. And the reason why is because again, like it's not a question of who you think's going to win. Okay, it's just a question of what's going to happen in their win condition and how often it happens. So he's going to win 45% of the time, and in those 45%, he's just going to be in the optimal, and he's going to be, owned to that degree as well. I would say at least 45% owned for Marab for all the reasons that I just mentioned. Now on the other side, O'Malley, I mean, he could be in the optimal when he wins, that 60, 55% of the time, but not always. He's a striker. And that's the issue. When you have strikers, they just have paths to victory that do not include um, huge scores. I mean, O'Malley in a 5 round decision, for example, when he avoids the takedowns or gets taken down, controlled, but just does enough on the feet to convince the judges we should give him the win. That's 80, right? And that's bust. Even a 3rd round KO after kind of a low volume first couple of rounds is 80, 85, and that bust. So there are variations where O'Malley, wins and doesn't make the optimal. However, the thing, the other thing to think about is in those wins where he scores 85 or 90, or the ones where he scores more, whatever. All those, well, not all those, but a lot of those lineups are going to also have leverage against all this Marab ownership. Now, I say almost all because I do think that people are going to be stacking both these 5 round fights in GPPs today. There's just not that many combinations, and both these fights have such high upside that the people are just going to do it. So you don't even get the same leverage you normally do if you played, say, O'Malley, because there are going to be a bunch of lineups that have both of them. But clearly, I mean, Marab is the best play and probably should go all in on him. And the other good thing is that if you do go all in on him, it's the last fight of the night, and you'll see how you're doing. And if you're, somehow have a half unique lineup that's depending on Marab winning, then you can just go ahead and just bet O'Malley pretty heavy in the betting markets. The main event, so it'll be liquid. You only have to lay -130, so you could probably get money down. So it's that is another advantage of locking in Marab. All right, the other 5 round fight, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Same kind of deal, to not the same, with not the same. I don't know, similar emphasis, but not as big of an emphasis. I mean, it's almost, again, I imagine, a pick 'em fight. Let's look at the money line here. Same thing. So maybe Grasso's a little bit bigger favorite. She's like -140. Um, and she's priced at what? 8,300. So Grasso actually is better money line value here. So that's pretty good. But again, money line is not going to matter in these types of fights. Question is in her wins, who in their in both of these fighters' wins, who scores the most and how often, right? So it's a similar thing to O'Malley to Marab, but not, I don't know, not as egregious of a comparison, right? So Grasso is definitely the better striker, but not by that much, right? And you have Shevchenko, who has all this takedown upside, and she does have the grappling ends, but I don't know, not by that much, I guess. Grasso, she did sub Valentina. Now, that was not because of her grappling, really. I mean, Shevchenko got caught trying a spinning back fist, and Alexa Grasso with an insane back take to get the sub. But she's not going to win the takedown battle, and she's not going to win a fight where she gets 10 takedowns, but Shevchenko can, So in Shevchenko's wins, she's optimal a lot. Not as often as Marab, but a decent amount here. So Shevchenko, the better of the two DFS plays. And I posted this on Twitter. I posted this in the Discord before. It's just important to realize what we're trying to accomplish here. So we're not trying to figure out who's going to win, who's got the style matchup, and who the UFC wants or whatever. Because it's funny when you talk to most MMA experts, as far as betting experts, I would say a huge amount of them, like both the O'Malley and the Grasso side. Like, if you know ball, so to speak, that's where you're going to end up. But if you really know DFS and the way it works, you're not going to key those two. You're going to key the guys with the fighters with the grappling upside, because in their wins, which do happen almost as much, they're just going to score more often. I mean, higher. So this is kind of like the way the DFS players will start their lineups, I believe, where like the no ball lineup people will go maybe O'Malley and Grasso. Now, again, this is not to I'm just coming up with a couple of things. I'm kind of theorizing. I wonder if you played one of each, like one grappler and one striker, you might get a little unique because the people that know DFS are going to play both the grapplers. This is the theory, and the no balls are going to play. The I don't want to say the better fighters, but the ones that I don't know. People in hindsight will be able to identify these two as the plays a lot easier. They they'll go with O'Malley Grasso. I wonder if playing one grappler and one striker of the two combinations is at least getting a little bit different. I don't know. Now again, you could only play one of these four and toss the other fight and hope that say O'Malley wins and scores 80 or Grasso wins and scores 80. Okay. So that's what you're rooting for. So what you probably don't want to do is actually play O'Malley or Grasso in DFS. I think what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to play, Marab with zero, okay, or Shevchenko with zero, okay. The idea is that you're really playing Shevchenko with O'Malley because if you think Marab's going to win, I mean he's just going to be in the optimal. So if you're going to presume he's not going to win, so you could play Shevchenko O'Malley, but I'd rather you probably did Shevchenko nothing, okay. So that's probably the idea in the bigger field GPPs is just play one of these two fights, probably 50% Marab zero, 50% Shevchenko zero, and that could be the way to start. Okay, there are other fights on the card, and let's go to to another one, which is going to be again quite the lesson, I think, in DFS. So Manuel Torres versus Ignacio Bahamondes. You have Manuel Torres, who is just a one man wrecking crew. When you look at his results, that's what he's done. Win round one, win round one every single fight. I mean, what else can you do? What else could the guy do? So they're definitely moving him a step up by fighting Ignacio Bahamondes, who fights a little more boring style. Win a decision, lost a decision. This what is this one? Lost a decision to McDessie. Little kind of low volume. He does have one good, early knockout, but aside from that, I mean, he just doesn't score well. So you look at the metrics here, the inside the distance line, you'll see Torres, his inside the distance line is just insane. I mean, he's plus 120 for an $8,200 fighter. I mean, he's just kind of a lock in GPPs, right? So let's talk about this for a second. Oh, sorry, not Bobanus. So let's talk about this for a second. Like, if Torres is a lock, and again, I don't mean he's going to win. I just mean that when he wins, I mean, look at his inside the distance line. He's going to win almost as often as he finishes people. I mean, not to mention he's never been out of the first round. I mean, this is when he gets his work done. Those are all huge scores. So the question is what do you do with this? It's an incredibly strong play. Well, again, I haven't talked about this concept in a while, but if you really want to make the best plays in GPPs on UFC cards, you identify the best play, and if his opponent is even remotely playable, you jam him and you play him very aggressively. That play, the opponent, the decent looking opponent of the awesome looking lock, is the best play in GPP UFC, in my opinion. And so you have Ignacio Bahamondes at 7,800 with pretty pedestrian metrics here. Inside the distance, I mean, but it's not bad. Look at this, plus 150. This is actually pretty good. It's not as good as Torres. Torres at a lower price, or does he have a lower price? No, I mean, I guess. I just can't imagine people playing Bahamondes over Torres. I mean, Torres is every fight it's round one. But the fact that Bahamondes is inside the distance line looks so sharp for his price, and Torres looks like a world beater. I think Bahamondes is really the way you're supposed to kind of start, attempting to be different at least. So what have we done here? Okay, so let's work through this. We're not going to use the Sims yet, obviously. But let's just say who's going to be more popular, Marab or Valentina Shevchenko? Probably Marab, right? So let's go Valentina, no Marab, which really means, by the way, O'Malley, right? That means we're rooting for O'Malley because if O'Malley loses, you lose. I mean, like Marab just smashes. So we're going to go Shevchenko blank, okay, and then Bahamondes. And if you start with this, I don't think that a lot of people are starting their concepts like this. Um, I think people are going to play Marab, they're going to play Valentina, and they're going to play Torres, and then fill in the rest. So I think this is a good way to go about this. All right, let's look at a couple of others. So this first fight on the night, um, you have a $9,700 fighter in Raul Rojas, and he's probably at least minus 300 to finish. I'm just guessing. Let's just see. And probably two plus 200 in the first round. Let's take a look. Rojas inside. Yeah, there it is. Minus 360. Let's look at the first round. Plus 445. I mean, plus takedown upside. I mean, this is a smash play. Okay. The problem is, again, is the price, but I don't know. People are very nervous about playing these guys at these high prices. And part of it is because, again, you need to be able to fill in the rest of your lineups. Like last week, you had who was it? Mm, whoever the Dagestani guy was, who was 9,800, I think it was. He was favored to take care of business in the first round. He didn't. He went to the second round, but he still scored 125 points, easily the top scorer, and yet he was not in the optimal because you had to make the rest of your lineups work, rest of your lineup work. But um, Rojas certainly has. Let's put another. He's the only one with the ceiling to outscore Marab in his wins, I think. And even so, that's going to be hard. But I think that if you presume that say Torres doesn't win, and that maybe not even Torres. I mean, because Rosas could outscore Torres even in the same first round win, because Rosas is going to come with some takedowns and control time along with his first round win. Now, again, that doesn't mean that Torres can't get a knockdown to overcome that, but and Rosas is very, very expensive. So nonetheless, 9,700 with the existence of all this mid-range stuff, you could certainly play him. And he's gonna look really strong. And then you have like a bunch of these freaking bow wow fights here. So Joshua Van against Edgar Chairez. I mean, when it comes to the best plays, or I can't imagine either of these guys have a decent inside the distance line. I mean, Chairez plus 400, Van plus 230 at 8,900. I mean, it's just terrible. And then you have Yasmin Jaraguay against Caitlin Souza? Let's take a look. I can't imagine that she's minus 110 here inside. Let's see. Wow. No, she's not. Inside, Jaraguay's plus 240 at that price is just no good. It's just no good. So this is dead. We talked about Torres Bahamondes. Listen, again, who's the best play? Torres. Just is. But when it comes to, making GPP lineups with a little leverage, I think Bahamondes is a good place to get some leverage. Okay, Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. I just can't imagine this being projected to be a high scorer. I mean, I know Aldana's got some pop, and I guess Dumont can get some control time if things go her way. But in the absence of that, I mean, let's take a look. Aldana plus 440 inside. I mean, look at this. You just can't do this. So it's messed up. It's a 10 fight card and you can't play anybody. You're playing the main event, you're both main events, you're playing the Torres fight. And we'll have a couple of others, and you're playing Rosas. You probably can get it all to work. All right, Ode Osborne versus Luis Rodriguez, 8,600, 7,600. You look at the metrics here, it's gonna be grim. What is interesting is the money line, I guess. Maybe Osborne has a little bit of money line value, but doesn't amount to much. Osborne plus 215, Rodriguez plus 155 inside. Um, okay. This could be something. This could be a pivot. You could play these guys. Rodriguez 7,600. What did I say? Plus 200 inside? Um, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. I think either of these sides are workable. And again, in a 14 fight card, I wouldn't even go near this, but I think on this type of card where you're looking for any type of upside, I think this is good. Both sides of this. Zellhuber against Ribovich. Okay, so Zellhuber, he's gonna have a low volume decision again. Let's take a look. Zellhuber minus 220. His he's 9K. And at 9K, you better have a ton of takedown upside because certainly his inside the distance line is not getting there. Zellhuber plus 209,000. Ribovich inside plus 500. I mean, it's just terrible. Um, and we really only have one other fight to talk about it. And thankfully, this could be a lot of fun. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, but it could be a lot of fun in DFS also. You have Lopez against Ortega, and there's no money line issues here. You have 8,700 for Lopes and or Lopez and 181 on the money line. Both these fighters are really good. They're both very aggressive. They both go for finishes. You'd have to believe that you can play this fight. And you look at the inside the distance line, it actually looks kind of poor for Ortega. He's plus 350 inside. Yikes. And that's not really that good unless you're 7,300 maybe. It's on the borderline. But Lopes isn't bad. Like at plus 160 at 8,700, it's fine. Well, I mean, let's compare a couple of things. Let's look at Lopes at 8,600 plus two and change and compare that to this other weird fight that I don't think anybody's going to talk about too much. This Ode fight, where Ode's inside is what? I mean, Rodriguez inside is plus 170. So we have 170, and then the other side, wait, 170, the other side 220, and then the Lopes was 170, 220, and the Lopes was inside 165, 330. So Ode Osborne has a better inside the distance line, I think. So wait, well, I'm sorry to do this. So Ortega is about plus 360, 360. And Osborne is about 240. I mean, Osborne is definitely, according to the metrics, a better play than Ortega. And Ortega's gonna be more popular. I mean, it's a big name. He does have finishing upside. He looks like he has finishing upside. So Ode Osborne, 7,600 is kind of starting to stand out a little bit. And on the other side, the Lopes, again, he has the same inside the distance line as this Rudy Rodriguez. And I can't guarantee you anything, but people are going to want to play this fight. They don't want to play Lopes. He's aggressive. He gets knockdowns. He gets all his points. So I think that this was something that we needed to do is to go through these and see if we can't come up with these non-main event fights to put in here. And I think we kind of found a couple of hoodoos here. So let's review. Both these main events rate to score really well if the grappler wins. And certainly they rate the score pretty well if the striker wins too, but it's not as much of a guarantee. So I do recommend that you play the grapplers, but one way you can get different is not play both. Just play one, and then the striker on the other side, or even better, I'm not the other side, the striker from the other fight, or even better, just play one of the grapplers and then nothing in the other slot, um, and just hope that fight busts. Now, how to fill it in, and we gave you some good ones. I thought, you have the favorites. We have, well, Torres is obviously really good, and Bahamonde is excellent leverage. Rosas, good favorite, but then maybe Lopes is not as good of a play as the Rudy Rodriguez, or whatever his name is. Maybe Ortega is not as good a play as Ode Osborne. And you can go ahead and fill your lineups out with those types of guys. And don't forget the Torres, the fact that he looks so strong, it's going to make Bahamondes a kind of a gross play, but one I think you need to make in the high, in the large payout GPPs. Okay, I guess that's going to do it. If I have time, which I don't think I will, but I might, I will try to find some time to do a lineup construction video. I should be able to. And I don't think I'm going to do I definitely can't do a betting breakdown because I can't bet from Ireland. So, so much for that. And for those of you that care, I actually put in my lineups already before I came to Ireland. So that I can get in under the legality curve, and I can always change them from where I am. All right, I guess that's going to do it. Good card, bad for DFS, but I think we gave you some idea to work with. Good luck, everybody.